Hello, everybody. Welcome, Crossings. Come on in, everybody. We're going to build some lore today. I'm so glad to have you. I would normally go on a little bit of a preamble right here and be like, hi, how's everybody doing, etc., etc., etc. But we have a lot to cover, and we do not have a ton of time. In fact, what I anticipated taking like about 2 hours is going to end up taking 4. We've split our day into two 2-hour blocks. The first block, which you are viewing now, we're going to try to hammer together a general timeline for Acheron Rho. And then after that, I'm going to answer as many questions from the Q&A form as I can. And then this evening, later on, you find the exact time on the schedule. This evening, later on, I'm going to answer as many more questions as I can. So lots and lots of stuff to cover. We're going to jump right into it. Today is very much a lore-focused stream, and we're going to just talk about that stuff. If you have rules questions about the game, if you have faction questions, that kind of stuff, speak to your faction representative and have them talk to me. We found a couple of interesting things. I have a rules document that you can find. It's pinned in the Discord, and I guess it goes... It makes sense for me to explain before we start. If this is absolutely the very first thing you have ever tuned in for Far Verona, let me tell you what we're doing. So RollPlay Far Verona is the new Stars Without Number roleplay show. We're starting it, first episode, May 9th. There is a fan game, which you can be a part of if you are a patron of RollPlay, the RollPlay Patreon. So patreon.com/roleplay, of any level. Even $1 a month gets you a ticket into the Discord. You can play the game. It's a bunch of freeform RP, creative stuff. You join a faction, and then your faction gets to participate in the great faction turn. So there's going to be a faction turn at the end of May. We're coming up on it. So get involved now if you want to get on that first influence that first turn. So in creating the setting for this campaign, a lot of people have been asking me, like, okay, when did certain things happen? What is kind of going on in terms of, like, how long ago was this thing? So it's important to kind of, like, generally form that up. So I've got a really rudimentary timeline, as you can see. Very rudimentary. And a couple of things that I know that we need to place in this timeline. Now, eventually I'm going to try to build this to be like a game of Microscope, where it'll have periods with events within them. But yeah, right now the only thing I know is stuff from the book and dates about Cyball, because Cyball is... I saw it in the wiki. People mentioned the Cyball games and gave me a specific year. So I was like, fuck it. Let's just throw it in there. So yeah, go fornicators. So we've got some stuff to put in. So we're gonna deviate slightly from, and I've been thinking about this a lot. We're gonna deviate slightly from the the core timeline in the rule book, because in the rule book there's some specific stuff that got carried over from Earth. I'm thinking of the Terran Mandate. I'm thinking about the Exchange. And I'm thinking about the, what are they called? The Perimeter Agency. So I think I'm just going to take all 3 of those orgs and I'm going to throw them out. I don't think that they made it into our world. I think that the Exchange is covered, like the stuff the Exchange does is covered by a combination of Prism, Acre, Eridanus, etc. So I think we've got factions that cover that. I think we're gonna throw out the Perimeter Agency, because Crux sort of covers that, right? Because their job is to, like, look out for AI. So we're gonna throw that out too. We don't need them. And then the Terran Mandate, like, it's too... I want to separate us from Earth by quite a lot. But I do obviously want to keep things like MES. I want to keep the Scream. That's very important to separate us from Earth. There was an Earth, but we're farther away from it than Swansong might have been, in terms of, like, I think Acheron Rho is one of the, like, earlier settlements, and the Scream hit it really hard. So I think that's the plan. So this is what we got. So in the year 2200 AD, we still use the Earth calendar because it's less complicated. I think that maybe like the aliens have their own calendar. The church has maybe its own calendar. Like we have this Gregorian, whatever the other one is, Julian calendar thing going on. But this is the main calendar. This is the like timeline that we as participants in the universe are able to access. So the plan here is to just sort of generally fill this out, and I will keep updating this. I'll make this available to you to look at later, but this is for me trying to just kind of like get an idea of what the deal is. So, okay. 2200 AD, constellation ships arrive in Acheron Rho, and then everything is like great for 465 years, right? So there's like a period of stuff where things are pretty good. The Scream is a terrible, terrible thing that cuts us off from all the other sectors. It destroys the gates, the like jump gates, and forces us to go back and redesign the spike drive so that we can find the planets again. So there's a lot that happens in rebuilding between the Scream and now. And then we have some Cyball stuff that occurs, which I guess is cool. And then this is today, present day, present time. And I guess we can put 3201, the Imperial, the naming of the Imperial throne, right? Or the house, the naming of the Imperial house. Okay, so I need to place a bunch of stuff. We need to place when Vela and Pixis broke up. We need to place the entire war against the artificials, and within that, the assassination of the Cygnus Emperor. That was the last emperor. We need to figure out when the Blood Eagle reigned over Acheron Rho, and I want to put in Fuxi, the first synthetic human. So when did we go like, check this out? This was that we made life. This is the first like for reals. Yeah, and then also so the Hong Lou Revolt. So this was after during the war, but I think before the emperor was assassinated. Okay, so let's just start generally adding stuff in. So, I mean, basically, as soon as we got here, let's say like 22, same thing. Like within the constellation ships arrive, the first colony on. I'm gonna just call it Imperial Prime because it wasn't called that because there was no empire. But the sector center is founded, and then probably immediately first contact, or like let's say 2205 maybe first contact, and that's with the like native environment, the people that live in and then almost immediately thereafter, let's say like 2206, the war for human supremacy. We'll come up with a better name, but yeah, this is where we start fighting off the aliens. Yeah, right. It's 0505A. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. 0505A, using the Valen indicator, Valen planetary indicator. Okay. So this was first contact, and then a year later, the war for human supremacy begins. I think. Like, I think that the war for human supremacy is when the empire is founded, right? So, like, probably sometime during this war, something goes wrong, and we need to go from... Because remember, the colonists were, like, scientists, and sort of, like, they were part of that. And then at some point, someone stepped up and was like, yo, this needs to be an empire. We need to like found the human empire. So yeah, maybe at the end of the war for human supremacy. And I think this war lasts, I guess here, we'll just put in a question mark right now. The founding of the empire. Yeah, and that's how it goes. Yeah, right. We need a euphemistic name for the war. But we'll work that out. I'm gonna put quotes around it. Remember, this is just figuring out time. I will go back and like nudge and adjust this stuff. But yeah, I think like there were no houses, right? So the constellation ships, we remember 1,000 years ago, they arrived with a great purpose, and a lot of this, the Scream, at least how I'm going to do it, affected more than just the jump gates. Like, it really fucked up human civilization generally. We lost a ton of our records. A lot of this stuff was built on, like, sci-tech and was destroyed. So we really, like, fall of the Roman Empire type thing with the Scream, and then the rise of this new empire thereafter. But the idea here is that we came to this sector as colonists, explorers, and scientists, not conquerors, right? The House Aquila had their founding as a police force, a defensive police force. And so we got there and we built a colony and we were like, hooray, things are going to be great. And then the aliens, and then something happened that made us be like, no, kill all the aliens, kill them and drive them out so we can seize Acheron Rho for ourselves. Acheron Rho is really, really different than it used to be, too. Like, we've lost planets. There are still missing colonies from Acheron Rho. Maybe House Pix is out looking for them. And that's still a thing. So, yeah. So the war happened for a while. And I don't know, like, I feel like we just whipped the shit out of these aliens because I think for the most part, they're not like warlike aliens. Like, I think they fought back, certainly, but we won because we're mean. And we did things that they refused to do. Yeah. So it was like genocide pretty quick, because they took up all the space. So we needed room, human room for humans, right? Yeah. So that's the thing. Okay. So the founding of the empire happens at some point, the formalization of the houses, probably, like, the church was with us all along, but like the church was involved in the founding of the empire, formalization of the houses, the ascension of the high church. Like, all this stuff happens after the war for human supremacy, but before the Scream. Yeah. I mean, the war for human supremacy begins essentially immediately because First Contact goes so bad. Like, we fuck it up. Yeah. Okay, so the ascension of the high church, all of that stuff happens. We got to figure out, okay, so like the formation of the Deathless, that's a thing we need to figure out. Some other stuff that happened after the Scream. House Fornax reinvents the modern spike drive. I think probably somewhere in here, House Vela and House Pixis split. Obviously we have the war against the artificials. We have the Hong Lou Revolt. We have the assassination of the Cygnus Empire. Because all of this stuff happens somewhere in this, like, period of whatever, 150 years, right? Like, this is all pretty narrow. The reign of the Blood Eagle happens somewhere in here, I think. Maybe right around this time. But it's bad. It's bad for humanity. Right? This is a mistake. The Blood Eagle represents all that is the worst about our nature. We all agree. Even Aquila is like, they drape a black cloak over the statue of the blood emperor, right, in the great hall, the great imperial hall, because he's a stain we must never forget. Okay, so we also got to talk about, I think Vela and Pixis probably, I don't think they've split like that recently, and I think we've had since for a while. So, like, let's go with the creation of Fushi in there somewhere, and then the Deathless. I think the Deathless probably, yeah, probably. Oh, you know what? Here, let's put in, so the formation of the church I wonder how soon. No, this is going to come after the reign of the Blood Eagle, a time of peace, right? Like everything in history is a response to everything else that came before it. So we kind of go back and forth with those things. Okay. All right. So formation of the Church of Humanity, right? This is the like, oh God, we're sorry. Like we did the wrong thing. Okay. So the idea here is that the scream occurs, we lose all the jump gates, and then we're like, oh fuck, like how do we contact each other? How do we like get in touch? How do we like figure things out? And that's, we need the spike drive. So we go back to older, more reliable technology. And I think that after the reign of the Blood Eagle, we're like, listen, all of these bad things happen to us because we are terrible, and we need to make good. And yeah, I think somewhere around here too, like formation of the Deathless, right? Like I think that's a thing that happens. Okay, so we're building. It's good. Okay, cool. So I think we also need to put in here like the declaration that synthetics have no souls, right? Because the church justifies again, and this is another thing, right? Like the ascension of the church, and then also declaration of the soul of humanity, right? Like only humans have souls, and then this is synthetics are not humans, right? To justify the legal war against the artificials. And I think actually I'm gonna technically start the war before it was justified. I think that's a thing. And so that would mean the Hong Lou Revolt is in there. Okay, cool. So we need to talk about, like, I think the formation of Prism Corp happens pretty fast, right? Like the formation of Prism happened before the Blood Eagle. I think actually it's during the reign of the Blood Eagle. Maybe Prism was originally founded as like the intelligence arm or an intelligence branch of the Blood Eagle's like reign, right? He needed secret police. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I like that. Yeah. And then also, let's see. We need to create, so relatively new thing that would have happened after the creation of Fuxi is the Trillionth Ring officially incorporates. There we go. And then we need to add in the fall of House Cygnus. And then somewhere in here, actually this happens after the Emperor dies. He's sort of the last one to go. Somewhere during the war against the artificials, this is going to become like a period. So let's call this like the beginning of the war against the artificials. Okay. And then, yeah. Okay. Cool. The naming of the Imperial House. So the Serpens Psychic Academy existed before we left Earth. It required psychic abilities. Like MES was a thing already when we arrived. Psychics were already a thing. House Serpens was like a medical ship that happened also to help and deal with people's MES, right? They were doctors originally. Yeah. So that's a thing. Remember, you all come from an original purpose. You all come from having an original goal in the constellation ships when you arrive, right? Everyone had their own like job that would eventually evolve after hundreds of years into your purpose. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's where the House Serpents. It was the snakes on the, yeah, you got it. All right. So, let's see. I mean, the guild isn't really a thing. Like they never officially like came out. They never said like, hi, we're the guild. Like the guild is what they call themselves. And they've just kind of been around, and we don't really remember. Like I think the Scream did not affect them, or like didn't affect them as much. And they're just like, yo, cool. We're still like super powerful gods. So That's how it goes. We don't understand or know them. Maybe that's something we can learn, but I think mostly we're gonna learn through play, right? Learning through like the PCs interacting with them. Yeah, right. The scream happened, and the guild was like, "Yo, don't stand in the fire, humans." Typical human wipe. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. Let's continue going through this stuff. So let's see. House Fornax invents the modern spike drive. Oh, and then along with that, House Vela begins construction on the library, right? This is like, cool. Fornax and Vela together were like, we are going to fix this scream problem. We're going to go out there and we're going to go and explore, and we're going to find our lost lambs, and we are going to bring them back into the fold. And I think, and I'm not going to detail this stuff like right now in detail, but like there are lost houses, there are fallen houses, there are houses that split off and died. There are houses that merged to form the modern houses. Some houses rose, some houses fell. There have been, like 10 or 11 different emperors. There are still planets out there that have been cut off. So partway through the campaign, I might just be like, okay, cool, Pixis, you discover a new planet. Good job, you found it. It's connected to these other planets by this space lane. It's in this sector. Nobody knows about it. It has a noble house on it everyone has forgotten about, and it's tech level 5. Have fun. So like that's a thing. I could just do that mid-game. It's absolutely totally possible, and I would do it through House Pixis and just drop it into the universe. And then people could join that faction, and we would just add them to the game. So yeah, like it's gonna be fluid. We're gonna have events like that occur. All right, so let's see. Do we need what other specific events do I need within this? What am I missing? Oh, the Acre Corporation. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the Acre Corporation is formed by a bunch of nobles who kind of like leave nobility. They separate from the nobility, and they build they're here to bank everything, right? Acre is huge. Acre is an enormous influence, and we also need to figure out like Vagrant and the UPC. Yeah. So Acre was not part of the original Constellation situation. I think that Acre was formed by Fornax and Vela nobles, Crux nobles, like a bunch of nobles who were like, you know what? We're not really about this founding of the empire shit. We are about money. We want to profit. So I think Acre Corporation is formed from the original Bank of the Empire, right? Like I think they split off. So let's do this. So the Eridanus Imperial Bank is formed, and then probably after the Scream sometime, Acre Corporation splits from the Imperial Bank. A way to keep because of some kind of like bickering, right? Like some kind of I think there's an Imperial Civil War somewhere. No, they'd have to reunite. Yeah. Okay, here, check this out. So this was before the reign of the Blood Eagle, and this is why we got the Blood Eagle. Yeah. Okay. So the first Imperial Civil War, we find all these planets, and then they start fighting over who gets to be in charge. And then the Acre Corporation splits with a bunch of the money, and then the Blood Eagle rises and unites the Empire in like blood and terror. And then we're like, whoa, that was a mistake. And I think probably after the reign of the Blood Eagle and the formation of Prism, the formation of the Deathless, this is the second Imperial Civil War. Okay, cool. Because eventually we declare like no more fighting each other. So I think that's probably somewhere in here. The Accords of Peace are like ratified, right? So the idea here is the church is like, yo, everyone just fucking chill. Nobles shall not do battle with nobles, right? We are all of one blood. This is also when the, what is it called, Reticulum? The noble grievance. That's right, formal agreements. Yeah, this is when this is formed. So formal agreement for noble grievance is established. So this is like dueling becomes a thing somewhere in here. Exactly. So it's, you're only allowed to duel or like assassinate each other if no one can track it back to you. If you get caught, you're in huge trouble. And then I think like, yeah, there's like a celebration of like the unification of the empire. So like 200 years ago, we had relative stability. However, there was a war against the artificials that it didn't take very long, but we'll have to figure out how long before all this happened. So I need to start filling in some dates. But yeah, Cyball is kind of like a way to keep everyone together, right? Like giving them dueling, giving them sport, giving them an opportunity to like fight. And then Crux was like, no, we want to be emperors. Yeah, right. Before Crux unified the empire. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cyball is either the Olympics or it's Quidditch. It can be both. Right? Religion, dueling, sports, and then massive piles of privilege. Huge, enormous piles of privilege. Yeah, bread and circuses. Okay. All right. So, let's figure out how long all of this shit took. So the war for supremacy begins. We need another. How long did it take for us to wipe out all these dumb aliens? 10 years? 8 years? 6 years? Let's call it like 10. I think it's probably 10-ish years. Let's call it like 2215 AD. The alien peace treaty are signed, ending the war. Okay, so that's the thing. Wasn't that long. Yeah, we were efficient. We came in, we killed the shit out of them, and we took their planets. And they were like, I'm sorry. We didn't mean to get in your way, humans. Thank you for colonizing and destroying our civilizations. Bye. Okay. The founding of the empire is in celebration thereof. Like, God, humans are great. We're the best. Same year, right? Signing the peace treaty at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, we're like, you know what? We're awesome. We are noble. We are of noble blood, right? So we meet the humans, or we meet the aliens, and then in 10 years, we have them annihilated and driven away. Then we force them to sign peace treaties that they'll never attack us again, and the war is over, and we're like, man, we are so good. We are so good and cool. We should be nobles. Yeah, that sounds great. So we form the houses officially. The formation of the houses. The bank is formed probably the next year. The High Church ascends that year. This is all like the ascension of humanity, right? Like we are awesome. And then once the church is founded, they're like, yo, aliens never had souls in the first place. Only humans have souls. Everyone else, they don't count. We were right to do this, right? Because I think, like 3 years later, we have apologists who are like, nah, I don't think like this is bad. Yeah. I mean, an empire can be quite small, right? Very little time. We were aggressive, right? Humans are locusts. Okay. So then we have a lot of time. We have 400 years of like the golden age of humanity. Yeah. An apologist is like, there were some people who are like, we shouldn't have done this. Like, I guess it's apologizing for the bad thing. Yeah. So anyway, whatever. So yeah, there's 400 years in here that we need to fill in. Profit? Like this is the rise of the empire. Rise of the empire. This was us like just kicking ass. Like building our universe, becoming awesome, and then at the height of our hubris, the scream kicks in and just like fucks us up. Yeah. So this is, when we look back, this is the golden age of humanity. When we look back prior to the scream, we remember back when we used to have everything. Humans would live forever. We were all beautiful and rich. There was no poor. There were no poor. We had everything. God was with us. And then something happened, and we all have different stories about that, but something happened and it caused the scream. We blame ourselves for that, I think. Or we blame the aliens, right? Alien vengeance. There's lots of stories. Definitely some people blame the aliens. Yeah. Yeah, this was like when we remember it being like post-scarcity and everything was awesome, and then the aliens killed God and everything was bad. So we'll get back to that. And yeah, this was back when we still had connection to Earth, right? During the Golden Age. We had connection to Terra. We had connection to a billion other systems. And people would flow through Acheron Rho, and then the scream cut us all off. So there may be lost... There are, 100%, there are colonies of the empire that we built out in these other sectors, but long lost to us. The Psychic Academy has been around for this whole time. Yeah, someone asked that earlier. Okay, so let's take a look. No, so the reason, so this is the differentiation between everything here is pre-tech, everything here is post-tech. So the library is post-tech, but it's being built on the fundaments of some pre-tech stuff that House Vela has. So the library, when we describe it, is like the new shit. It's what we need to allow us to explore and to find all the other systems. And they're building it with House Fornax's ships as they explore. This was back when Vela and Pixis were still one thing, right? The big split is because Vela stopped exploring and Pixis was like, we're gonna go. We're gonna leave. See you later. Okay. So yeah, exactly. There was a pre-tech library. It fell down, and then we had to rebuild it because of aliens or our own hubris, depending. The Church of Humanity definitely thinks that the scream was caused by hubris. Pretty much everyone else blames either aliens or, I guess now, robots. They're like, could the synths have traveled back in time? Or the guild? Or whatever, right? The houses are all named after... Yeah, they're all named after the ship. So, House Vagrant... probably came after the Acre Corporation, came after the Reign of the Blood Eagle, but they're not, it's not a response. I don't want everything to be about the Reign of the Blood Eagle, right? It's all not, that's not the center of, that's just one emperor or emperor among many. So I think UPC and Vagrant are pretty new. So I think probably the UPC, like within the last 100 years, like during the war, somewhere in here, like the UPC officially, unofficially, because they don't really do anything officially, form. And then Vagrant, yeah, Vagrant is like real new, right? House Vagrant is formed because they're the like vultures, right? They're the ones picking away at the like remnants. Everything's all fucked up, and Vagrant is they're here in the ruins trying to like pick stuff up. They're trying to make things for themselves. They're like, forget you. We're gonna steal. So this is all real recent. So let's put some dates on these things. The fall of House Cygnus happened in the last 10 years. So let's call it like 3191, which puts us at about nine years of no emperor time. Does that seem like too much? I don't know. Let me put it in here for now. Okay. So let's say House Vagrant forms in like 3195. They've only been around for like 5 years. Maybe we switch these, because the Emperor and the fall of the house, these happen at the same time. So maybe let's move these. Let's put them like real recent. We'll call it 3198. That seems better to me. Yeah. Yeah. Seems too long to not have an emperor. But the war, I think, has been going on for a while, right? Because this takes time. This isn't like an Alien where we can see them and they're obvious. This is like rooting out. I think this is like this is a pretty long one. So let's call it like 3178 AD. Right? So that gives us 22 years since the war against the artificials. So like, yeah. I mean, this is like sort of when the war is officially declared. It's probably been kind of like going on for a while. It's not really a civil war. It's a war of occupation. And yeah, it would have started for a long time. The fall of House Cygnus is like when they're officially stricken from the record, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that probably like House Cygnus right here. House Cygnus declared. Actually, yeah, you know what? Let's put the fall of House Cygnus. Let's just make it one event. And we'll call it right here. Because they're like, you're not a house anymore. You're an enemy of the state. And now we're allowed to kill them and exterminate them and drive them out. The Hong Lou Revolt lasts as long as Cygnus stays in power, unless you include. I don't include all the general protests and riots. I think like this is an imperial timeline, so yeah, the Hong Lou Revolt, I think it's a period of time that starts. So we gotta put these as date. The start of the Hong Lou Revolt pretty much happens like here, right? 3180, like, and then lasts, and then it ends probably, I don't know, when the emperor is assassinated, right? When they like House Cygnus like falls for real. Okay, 3198 AD, and this is end of the Hong Lou Revolt. Why do we wait so long to kill the emperor? Because he has all the imperial shit. It wasn't that we waited. It was that, like, he's a badass and has all these fucking ships and troops and guns and stuff. And also a loyal cadre of mind-controlled super soldiers. He was a very hard person to kill. So by the Serpent's assassin. And we'll name him and do all that stuff. That sounds like excuses. Yeah, because he's hard to get at. He has his own psychics. He has his own, like, invincible Sardaukar shock troops. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And yeah, the Hong Lou Revolt is like, it's the change in government on Hong Lou. It's essentially, we're calling it the Hong Lou Revolt, but it's the rise of the triads. So, you know, you got drugs, you got 2 guns, you're running around shooting stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the deal. Cool. Okay. So the death of the Cygnus Emperor at the hands of a Serpent's assassin. And again, this is complicated because, let's see, 3199 AD, the Serpent's assassin turns themselves, no, there we go, over to the church, right? Not to House Crux. Cool. Okay. Great. Okay, so the Serpent's assassin turns himself over to the church. They're officially in a form of like, they have asylum, but they also are criminals. They've come to repent. And there is some political stuff. If you're in House Crux, or if you're part of the High Church, or if you're in House Serpens, there's some complex political stuff about what to do with this assassin, because he technically committed, or they technically committed, the worst possible crime. Even though House Cygnus was thrown down, you can't really, even the church can't really say the emperor is a bad person. They're not allowed. We had this problem back during the reign of the Blood Eagle, who thankfully died on their own. But we're going to put this in. The death of the Blood Eagle under mysterious circumstances. The difference between the High Church and the Church of Humanity is that the High Church is old and powerful, and the Church of Humanity is new and repentant, and believes that all of our lives of genocide and horror, we should not do what we do. That the human soul is tainted by these black acts, and we need to get our shit together. Basically, they are the ones that see with some perspective all of this terror that we have done. Yeah, and they're relatively new, right? Like back in the 2900s, probably. Still a hell of a lot older than House Vagrant. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's cool. We're getting some idea around like the order in which these things are occurring. Eventually, we're gonna break these down into like periods and subcategories, right? So we'll categorize some of the stuff. I'm just putting in like dates here. So the Golden Age of Humanity occurred, and what else needed to happen during the Golden Age of Humanity? Like anything? Like there's 400 years of like good shit going on. So this is kind of like all of the. It's funny. I can only really think of all the bad stuff. Hi, it's me, Adam. This is how I work. So this is expansion, right? Like formalization. Like contact with Earth, like this is all good stuff, but nothing bad happens, basically. Like there's nothing to write here because it's all good. We just build and get better and create great works of art. But like the guild has really fucked with our memory of this time. And that's a thing, right? So okay, we'll leave the Golden Age. We'll come back. I don't really care about that stuff right now. Good things happened. It was great. The chat logs have been purged. Yeah, the guild calls it retconning. They have retconned human history a few times. So some of these things might be in the wrong order. Some of these things might also be wrong as far as we can remember. But occasionally a guild retcon will occur. And I don't know, it's a psychic effect. There are members of the Serpent's Precognitive Council that hold their own history of the sector because maybe they're powerful enough psychics that they can break through the guild's like weird situation. Okay. All right. So, this is what 20. How long does it take for House Fornax to get their shit together? Let's give them a few years. House Fornax reinvents the modern spike drive. House Vela begins construction on the library, basically in correlation, right? And then this is a period of like rediscovery, right? A period of rediscovery. This is like where during the first Imperial Civil War, I think I should start branching these. Okay, so the war for human. I'm actually gonna start doing these things. So. The age of colonization. This is essentially the beginning of the sector, and this is these things, and then the war for human prosperity. We're gonna call it that for right now, and that's effectively this period, right? And then dawn of empire, and that's all this shit, right? All this good stuff. And then the golden age. We don't have anything for that. I don't know. Awesome shit. And then the scream. We'll call this like the fallen, the end, right? Like the scream, basically like the dark age. And then the beginning of the rebuilding. And that's all this stuff. And then the first Civil War. And we'll work out all the little details for here. And during the Civil War, all this stuff happens. The rise of the Blood Eagle. Formation of Prism, Formation of the Deathless, the Second Imperial Civil War, Death of the Blood Eagle there. The New Empire, right? We rebuild. I mean, the Scream is like a specific event that happened on one date. So the First Imperial Civil War, the Rise of the Blood Eagle, ends the First Civil War, but also begins the Second Imperial Civil War. Okay. Yeah, hold on. Blip. There we go. Okay. It was very civil. It was the Civil Imperial Civil War. Okay, so the New Empire. Well, so the Dark Ages include the rebuilding, right? Like, this is a period during the Dark Ages. This is all... Like, I'm starting to nest this stuff. Look. Okay? There you go. So this is all nested under what we consider the Dark Ages. It's an age of war, etc. This is the New Empire is the end of the Dark Ages, the like Reformation, the formation of the Church of Humanity, the Accords of Peace. I think this happens first. We're in the New Imperial period here, and then the next era is the war against the synthetics. All this stuff is like sort of the Silver Age, right? And then the war against the artificials. Skin job police action. Okay, and all this happens. The UPC is formed. Declaration, yada, yada, yada. And then it ends with the death of the Emperor. And then we begin the Common Era. And that's it. That's it. This is where we're at now. Okay, so now we're really getting into this like microscope shit, right? So let's start thinking about how each of the we got to start thinking about how each of the emperors, like they would reign. The human lifespan in the Golden Age is unknowable, but currently there are ages of like an emperor could theoretically reign for the entire 100 years. You're only allowed to reign for 100 years before a new house is put in place. So we need, let's see how many emperors we need. How many emperors? So we have the empire is founded in 2215. Emperor 1. So 2315, what was happening in 2315? Because it's complicated because a bunch of other shit goes on. So 2215, all this stuff happens. The Golden Age, okay, all the way up to 2265, we have emperors. Or 2665. So 2315 is Emperor 2. 24. And we'll adjust these and stuff too. Yeah, I should change these to the gender neutral because we don't know if they were men or women or non-binary people. Emperor the 3rd, 26, 16, or 15. This poor bastard. Emperor the 4th. And in the 4th age, or the 5th age, yeah, that's right. I missed. This person didn't reign for that long. Thank you, Math Squad. Counting Squad. All right. So in the fifth Imperium, it went bad because we had the Scream. 50 years in, halfway through the reign of Emperor 5, it didn't go good. So okay. So then a bunch of bad shit happened. The Blood Eagle is after 2617. We'll have to figure out how long the Blood Eagle's reign and how long these civil wars were. But essentially, the First Imperial Civil War, I think here is like a mild disagreement over who gets to be the emperor. So like, hi, I'm the emperor. No, I am the emperor. Okay, I mean, let's have a big fight about it. During which the Acre Corporation splits from the Imperial Bank and plays both sides against each other. So at some point we have several confusing multi-emperor periods. I'm thinking like popes during the sort of all that weirdness during the like 1500s. So there's that. And I want things to be really stable during the Golden Age, right? Like everything was great. Nice and stable, exactly 100 years. Everyone voted. It was great. Yeah, several confusing multi-emperor periods. And then the Blood Emperor, let's see. Okay, so technically, Emperor the 6th. This is the Blood Emperor. So the Blood Emperor, and this was a guy. And then, what was the next thing that happened? There was like another civil war. Then the Blood Eagle dies. The Accords of Peace are ratified. A new emperor is crowned. So I really need to figure out, okay, so this is like emperor, okay, there's going to be another period of debate, and then Emperor the 7th. This is the first emperor of the new age. Okay. And then we had several between then and then Emperor question mark the Cygnus Emperor, and then 3201, hopefully, maybe, we'll see. If you all can pick, it might be a pope, right? It might be a hierarch. We'll see. Okay, so that means we need to figure out some times. The plural of emperor is emperor. Yeah. Yeah. So it could be an exarch that we would end up with in play. Okay, so let's put some more dates on these things. So a period of rediscovery, that's this. This is the rebuilding. So how long does this take? What's the next thing? We got 3,000. Let's call it like 100 years. Let's call it like 2820 AD. That this is like, maybe this is the beginning. Let's put it here. And this is like a secondary, an age of exploration, right? So like the new maps are built. This is, it's not exactly 100, I know. So yeah, this is when we get the sector. Like Acheron, the official Acheron Rho map is like complete. And let's say that happens in 2792. House Vela unveils the finished map of Acheron Rho, right? We can talk about the rise of the great houses and the fall of the great houses and sort of how that works, but I don't know that we need to like timeline those just yet. Okay, so we unveil the finished map, and then I think this is actually too soon. Let's call this 2804. Then we start saying like, cool, hi everybody, we're all neighbors. I'm the boss of you. Actually, I'm the boss of you? No, we're the boss. I like him, he's the boss. And then the yeah, so they go to war. And this is like a war between houses. This is the stuff we're not allowed to do anymore. How long? I think once war starts, Acre Corporation, they give up their nobility. In like 2805 or 2806. Let's give them a couple of years to like finish that plan. They split from the Imperial Bank and begin selling guns and bombs and basically everything you need to run an empire to both sides. And they make massive bank. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Okay. This nobility stuff is stupid. We don't need to be nobles. We quit the houses. We're smarter than that. And as a result, they get 400 years of just like fucking hot bank, which is why they're in such a good position now. Because fundamentally they control the middle of the economy, and they are rich as hell. Yeah. Okay, so how long does this first Imperial Civil War last? I think it probably lasts like 100 years. 29, or let's call it 2889. Let's call it that. Reign of the Rise of the Blood Eagle. So let's say this is the crowning of the Blood Eagle. Prism forms in 2890. The Deathless probably form up sometime after that. 29, let's call it 2932. This is all the, like, I guess this falls under another Imperial. So this is like the second Imperial Civil War. And this is pretty much everybody against the Blood Eagle, right? And the Blood Eagle's ally. Right, yes, that's right. 28, ending in 01. Years ending in 01 are crowning years. So let's say that. We'll set this. 2801, it's crowning a Blood Eagle. That would put, or 2901. Yeah. There we go. This is a bad Civil War. It lasts 100 years. Yeah. A mild disagreement is 100 years of war. So the Blood Eagle was crowned in 2901. Jesus. So we didn't have like a solid emperor for like 300 years. This time sucked. This was bad. This is why we call them the Dark Ages. Yeah, okay, cool. I like that. So that's fine. Oh, that's right. The Blood Eagle isn't in 29. Yeah, that's right, because the new emperor is crowned on an 01 year. So this would have to be, we'll get there. I think it's the year 3000. Year 3000. Okay. So, okay, the Blood Eagle, the Second Imperial Civil War begins against the Blood Eagle almost right away. Like, once they start taking the Blood Eagle seriously. So I think these things fall under the Second Imperial Civil War. 2903. Everyone, or some people are like, I don't want to fight. Like, let's get into battle. So I'll have to go back and adjust some stuff. 2804 is the period of. There we go. Okay. And I'll come back and rename all of these and like give them time frames once they're squared away. All right. So the Blood Eagle was crowned in 2901. 2 years later, the formation of the, what do we call them? The Council of the Houses Minor. But we'll call right now the Council of Houses. Basically they formed against the Blood Emperor. They were like, nope, he is terrible. And then he proves it. And I don't think he would, yeah, there's some time where he reigns and shit is awful. So this occurs here, formation of the Council of Houses. Okay. And then he dies. He dies mysteriously. And I want him to, like, reign for how long? He's already reigned for 32 years. Let's put him down at 2955. And he dies under mysterious circumstances. Yeah, no, they're not. So this isn't the Houses Minor and the Houses Major. That's part of the new... This differentiation is only a couple of 100 years old. The Courts of Peace are ratified. The Houses Major and Minor are established. We never used to differentiate. It was all just like that stuff. And yeah, the formation of Prism has to come after the crowning of the Blood Eagle because they originally served him. And of course, first thing he did. Okay, great, yeah. Deathless are formed. This is a period of terrible war. Death of the Blood Eagle, and then it's over.